The new iPad Air is here, and there's a little irony I want to explore. Has this thing gotten so good that people have started thinking of it as kind of boring? There's so much to unpack here because if boring is useful, then this is boringly awesome because useful and boring can also be very reliable. There's a reason the Air here is outselling the iPad Pro, and we're gonna talk all about it. First of all, real quickly, here's what's new. We got an M3 chip inside now. The front-facing camera is no longer located here, it's located here so that it works well with the Magic Keyboard, which we're gonna talk about in a separate video because there's enough new there that we can get into it. Even while the price tag here starts at $599, so that didn't go up. So in this video, I wanna go through all kinds of things. What specifically can you do with this M3? If you're upgrading, you're gonna find that really useful. We'll talk about who should upgrade and who shouldn't and why. We're gonna talk about how this compares to the iPad Pro. We're gonna talk about where it fits into the lineup and what differentiates it versus other iPads. We're also gonna talk about the upgrade cycle because this is a relatively quick refresh for Apple and the Air, and lots more. You're gonna get some nuance and angles here that you're not gonna find in other videos. I do just wanna say before we get into it, my new course is up. It's My AI Edge. If you wanna understand how AI is reshaping the world and how you can use it to reinvent yours, then I got a coupon for you down in the description. Now, before we get too deep into this, let me hold up this purple color. Apple sent me this purple sample here, and it's not the color that I would have picked, but that's what it looks like. I just wanna kick things off here quickly talking about the perception of this. Like, people are talking about, oh, it's another iPad, it's so boring. I get that, I actually do. Everyone wants something super different. This is very iterative. The iPad Air's hardware does seem to hit the mark for most people. It's fast, it's sleek, it's $599. In their latest quarterly earnings, Apple's iPad sales were something like $11 billion. People are buying these, and that's up versus previous sales numbers. And like I said, this thing right here is outselling the $1,000 plus iPad Pro. Now, I'm pretty sure that the base iPad is outselling all the other iPads. It's $349. But the 13-inch Air here gives you 30% more screen real estate. So if you're trying to do some multitasking, that's actually very useful. So I think fans are speaking with their wallets here, and they're saying this is ideal for them. The critics out there just feel like Apple's playing it too safe. But to some extent, the iPad Air is so good already that upgrades feel niche. So by the time you throw in the Magic Keyboard, which again, I'm gonna discuss in a separate video, what you really end up with is a device that feels so close to Pro for most people, and you have the M3 that can handle most Pro tasks, while at the same time not solving what people tend to think of as iPad OS's limits, that a good chunk of people out there feel like it does 95% of what they need for less than the Pro. So it's like Pro enough. You don't get the M4 here, you don't have the OLED display, but you're saving $400 off that $1,000 price. That's a sweet spot. So the viewing experience for some content diminishes a little bit, but diminishing returns mean that for a lot of people, they're not willing to upgrade to the Pro level for the price. People are willing to put up with Touch ID over Face ID here because they don't need the Pro polish. That's kind of how I would describe it. The Pro really polishes everything that can be polished. So let's talk a little bit about how it stacks up in the lineup. Versus the base iPad, the M3 beats the A14. You have an 11 or 13-inch option versus just the 10.9-inch option. And the Air obviously is more expensive, or you could say it misses out on the low cost. Then versus the iPad Mini, you have a bigger screen, obviously. You get the M3 over the A15, but the Mini is more portable. It just is because of the smaller size. We already talked about the Pro, so where does that leave the Air? Well, I think a lot of people end up feeling like this is the Goldilocks iPad. Some people want more, some people want less, but it's like the middle champ. Too good to call basic, but not Pro fancy. Quick note from our sponsor, the ESR Rebound magnetic keyboard case, which is $129, offers a detachable backplate and stand, and its trackpad will let you tap, pinch, and swipe with precision, while also giving you some backlit keys that come in 7 different colors, 3 different brightness levels for smooth, accurate typing. Also, the ESR Flip magnetic case with pencil holder features a portrait view. It's really unique how they set that up with the little flap. It also has a nice multi-angle design for all your different viewing or creative needs. Like on my desk, I've got a couple studio displays, and it's nice to be able to rotate that angle down so that it doesn't block anything. And if you compare it to other cases, it's very budget friendly. Finally, the ESR UltraFit Classic Screen Protector uses a simple 2-step application for a dust-free, bubble-free install, and it's 2 times stronger than standard protectors. If you're looking for something that's super simple to install, it really doesn't get any simpler. If you want to check these things out, I'll have them linked up down in the description for you. Now, if you're considering upgrading and you're like, well, what can I do with this M3? Let me give you some ideas. You can use something like Uniform 3D to sculpt 3D models quickly. Now, I'm not a 3D artist, but I did see somebody use this to sculpt a chess piece in like no time, and it was really cool, actually. Then, of course, you can game on here, games like War Thunder Mobile, for instance, with the game mode. So that game mode ends up cutting lag for your epic battles. And when you see the reflections on like the water gamer, for instance, as you're playing, you realize that if that's your thing, if you're into gaming, this is actually a pretty capable gaming machine. Apple has brought versions of some of its Pro apps here, Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro for iPad. Of course, I use those all the time around the studio. Got an iPad right here, powering some stuff. I film on iPhones, mix that in with the footage frequently. I've covered many times in the past. You can look these things up. Things like notes transcription, things like handwriting cleanup, where it will straighten out your handwriting when you use the Apple Pencil, math notes. If there's an object in a photo that you want to erase, you can use the Apple Pencil for precision. The 16-core neural engine can help apps like OnForm Golf analyze your swings. So it gives you this 3D visualization of your slide, your sway, your hand path, all that stuff for golf. So there are some instances where power users who actually go beyond, basic stuff like surfing the web or watching Netflix or something, like where that power actually can make itself felt, although I will say casual users might not notice it or care. So let's talk a little bit about the name here, iPad Air. What does that mean in 2025? Well, way back in 2023, it was the thinnest, lightest iPad at 6.1 millimeters, 478 grams. Now, it's still 6.1 millimeters and goes from 462 grams for the 11-inch up to 618 grams for the 13-inch, but the iPad Pro is actually 5.1 millimeters. It's thinner, while the Mini at 300 grams is obviously lighter. So the name Air here still qualifies for the thinness and lightness, I think. It is thin and light, but maybe it also sort of just signifies like a breezy, efficient vibe. In my mind, at least, I sort of feel like Air kind of signifies seamless performance. It's not just the size or the weight. Now, here's something kind of crazy. It was only 9 months since we got the last refresh for the iPad Air, right? So it's like, that's kind of unusual. Often it is 12 to 18 months in between iPad refreshes. The last Air came out on May 2024 with the M2, and we're gonna talk about upgrading in just a second, but for people who are looking for that longevity, they don't buy a new iPad every year. Not a lot of people do at this point, but they just want something that's going to stay fast and fresh for a long time, get updates for quite a while. I mean, sticking the M3 in here is going to facilitate that. So I think because of the M3, some people are going to find this too good to wait for, and other people are going to find that it's not a must for them. It's kind of a funny situation. All right, a lot of people are just like, Chris, should I get this? Let me help you narrow that down. If you have a pre-M1 iPad, if you need that M3 power, or if you want that 13-inch display, this is probably an upgrade for you. On the other hand, if you have an M2 already, that's probably fine for the moment. If you need or want that OLED though, you're going to want to go Pro. If you're looking for something more portable that you can still use with the Apple Pencil, you might want the Mini instead. Or if the main thing for you is just saving some dollars, then go with the base. But this is for the good enough crowd, which I think for a lot of people, this really is. The iPad Air really is kind of a funny thing, and I know some other Apple products similarly are sort of funny in that, yeah, it's sort of what people expect an iPad to be. That's what the iPad Air is. That's what it represents. And I think that's what it's supposed to be, like the iPad Pro should be the thing that really pushes, what this thing can do, this lineup technologically. And then you have these other iterations, smaller if you want that, less expensive if that's the thing that matters. Like the iPad is the iPad. What are you gonna do to improve it? If you change it significantly, people are gonna be bummed out because they like the tablet that it is. It sort of has perfected the tablet situation. For all the things that people are like, oh, I wish I had this or that, like, well, that does add to the price, and you can't actually get one that has an OLED screen, et cetera, et cetera. It's gonna cost, start at $1,000, right? So there's trade-offs for everything. I feel like for me, there's really nothing that I could need to do professionally that I couldn't get done here. So that's why I sort of talk about the iPad Pro as having that pro polish.